My name is Meshorn Daniels. I am the new author here in Louisville, Kentucky. America, I am not your black America. It's in the title of my new book, I am not your black America. It's now available on Barnes & Noble. You can also order it on Amazon, Kindle, and audio. I'm pretty excited about the whole idea of the therapy that this book gave to me in putting this book together, being able to write about my life and the experiences that I come through. Arriving from out of Miami, Florida, went through the military, came here to Louisville, Kentucky, found my queen, and then learned how to overcome some of the challenges that I found myself in, dealing with the idea of race. Race is stuff that I was born into something, but I really didn't have no clue about what it was. And so what I'm going to do is go through a few of these chapters, and I'm just going to keep it, very raw and clean, but raw to the point. So each of one of you can go through my book. I'm going to actually name the chapters, and I'm going to give you just a little brief of my thoughts, what I was talking about in each and every one of these chapters. Just a synopsis of my thinking. And one of the good things about my book, I have to be very clear, is that my book is not based on the idea of me speaking from my understanding. Because, anybody who knows me, I talk with a lot of ebonics. And my book was written from an ebonic mentality. I actually had a ghostwriter work with me who's a very elegant literature person. I wanted my book to be written to the dominant European culture, and I wanted to be understood by them. So I wanted to make sure that the literature was of a matter that would be something that they will be able to receive. So the speaking of this, I talk raw. I'm going to speak raw about how it is, but in my book, it's very clean. It's very articulate because my book is written to the dominant European culture. One of the things that I says is that culturally, if you think about it, culturally, we did not name ourselves black. How many of y'all really understand that? We culturally did not name ourselves black. The dominant European culture named us black, and they named themselves white. And so a lot of the things that we have gotten ourselves caught up in is been placed upon us by an intentional, systematic system that many of us don't even realize that we're in. And I really didn't realize I was in it until I found myself being a surgical technologist in a dominant European culture, realizing that I wanted to be recognized for the skills that I brought to the operating room as a surgical tech, not by the color of my skin.
Well, when I seen the title, I'm Not Your Black America, I said, what in the world is he talking about? Because he's as black as I am. And so I was very curious. That's what made me buy the book, because I wanted to find out, what is he talking about, I'm Not Your Black America? But then when I read the book, not the whole book yet, but when I read most of it, and I seen that he's on to something that's revolutionary when he's talking about getting rid of color construct and not letting yourself be caged in a box as just black, because black is something imaginary. To me, his vision of what he wants to do with this book is like a modern day prophet. This is something that's not been seen in my generation, and I salute him for being this deep.
When you tell people that you are black in America, often that comes with another connotation, more than likely a negative connotation, and it's often associated with being lazy, being inferior to white Americans, and because of that, I am not your black American, or your black America is saying, I am not that stereotype that you are pushing on me, and I'm not the person you're trying to trap me in. And it's just saying, given that black empower thing, that we are equal, we are like this, and just making sure we're not oppressed and pushed down.
not ready to conform. I will not conform to what you want or your description of what I am or who I need to be accepted by you.
First of all, I'm spinning this conversation over James Baldwin. You know, when he wrote his book, I'm Not Your Negro. I believe that I'm trying to fulfill what he didn't get the opportunity to fulfill when he was talking about I'm Not Your Negro. My book is I'm Not Your Black. It was talking about an era and during a time of trying to let people know that we're tired of being characterized as their nigger. And so it's a metaphor to saying that, specifically us as men, that we're just tired of being their nigger. So my book is interested in saying basically the same thing. I wrote it specifically for the dominant European culture.
Watching Roots, it gave us a description of what we're down, where we come from. Alex Haley was great, with giving us something, but my whole thing with that was, they identify, when they give us something to talk about ourselves, they identify us as slaves and or hunting and gathering societies, and we were much greater than that. If it went back just a little bit more, you said to give us more, let everybody know that we was kings and queens taken, not just we was some slaves taken,
My fault of the movie Roots is that they didn't exploit the brutality of that era. They touched on it, but they didn't let them really see how it truly was. And that would be my fault on it, because it was way much crueler than the movie portrayed, and they gave them a taste of it and folks couldn't handle it.
The very first time I saw the movie, I was really young, probably about 9, and my first initial reaction was actually pride to it, because the history that we are taught in school is very whitewashed and you never really know the truths of it. So that was the first time I was actually exposed to see how bad it was. And so my initial reaction was that I was proud, I was very sad. I was even curious how bad it really was, since I had been, that information had been taken from me for most of my primary school years. So I really did like the movie, and I just rewatched it a few years ago, and I like the story it tells. I like how long it is, how it actually takes you on the journey, but it always evokes that sadness in me and that longing to read.
The movie Roots, to me, was a very inflammatory movie when I first saw it, because of the times that we was having a tremendous amount of distress. We didn't know who we were as a demographic of people and everything, and so when the movie came out, it inflammatory our ignorance of what it is, who we were. And so I and my friends and I, we participated in, I went around, we rioted in Miami. I'm from Miami. And I beat up some white folks. I put my hands on things. I've done things that I wasn't very proud of, but we did it because we were responding to the movie Roots. And I feel that the Roots really done an injustice, because of demographics of people who did not know who they were in the beginning. Then getting that movie was, I feel that it distorted and misrepresented our ancestors of truly who they were and what they were all about.
What Meshorn showed in this chapter is that we've all have been vulnerable in our life, because it's a growing thing. From a child to an adult, you're going to be vulnerable at different stages of your life, and he put that on full display. I'm proud of him for doing it, but I don't know if I have as much courage as he has to put my vulnerability or my demons on display as he has in his book, which adds to his credit as an author.
So my favorite quote actually is, we are not responsible for our trauma, but we are responsible for our healing. And essentially what that is saying is that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we move forward from that. And so in regards to skeletons and demons, I feel like those are along the exact same lines, in the sense that when black men and black women are born into this earth, they already have the chains, as he was talking about in the book of job oppression, of racism, of hate crime, of all this stuff like that. And then also the internal generational trauma that is within the Black community. So I feel like for Black men and for Black women, it is very important to, whether that's therapy, whether that's your other holistic healing, to try to tackle those internal demons first before you go out to the world. Because at the end of the day, you can't do anything with a cloudy mindset and a cloudy view on life.
But we all come from somewhere to think that, we've gotten to where we are as individuals, even as a community, to think that there was nothing that, not a place that we've come from. But being able to face those demons, we all struggle with something, we all fight with something. There's always something that's either in the background, mentally, physical, spiritually, psychologically, that's holding us down, or something we've experienced at one time or another that controlled us, knocked us down, and made us feel less of who we are. So that reality is that, in order to speak to somebody and to have somebody read a book or watch a movie and you're loaning them, they're loaning to you their imagination, they're opening up their minds and their hearts. You have to talk real to them, because real recognize real, we can see through, people are able to see through things. So if I'm willing enough to buy your movie or buy your book, even listen to you, you should be able to speak some truth. You know what I'm saying? And come from a place where I can relate. If it's either knowing somebody that's been through it or have gone through it myself.
Yes, that's in page 82. And I really found that page or that chapter to be very important, because I had already talked about my early childhood, about what my uncle done to me in the cradle before I even knew who I was. He altered my innocence. And I believe that many men growing up, many of our innocence are distorted. And if we don't never get a handle of those things, they will distort the things that we're trying to accomplish moving forward. So I believe that we must learn how to get a handle on those things that affect us, and those skeletons are very serious. And no matter what they are, they will destroy you if you don't get a handle on them.
Well, it is important to be able to identify with something and or someone, but to identify with just what you give me to pick from, I have to pick the best of 3, 4, 5, 6 different evils, when I can identify with the fact that I was created by a God that's greater than me and better than me, but this society, from what I've seen and what we've all, can acknowledge, if we're truthful, we identify with a God that doesn't look like me. We identify with a God that man killed, man whooped, he cried, he wept, and I know that there's something greater than what they're trying to give me, so to identify with what they want to give me is not it. So self-identity, as far as, learning who I am, what I am, where I come from, how resilient I am, because we was meant to be a cheap form of labor, and here we are, business owners, here we are, mothers and fathers, kings and queens again, so I want to identify with the truth, however it is, whatever it is. Let's see what it is, but give it to me, or don't stand in my way to go get it.
So for my identity, I usually go with Black or African American. Either one works for me. And I know in the book, he severely talks about not going with Black because that is the colonial approach to me. But to me, the Black Power movement and how far we've come with that identity has given it a really good image, and has also redeemed its meaning from just Black to really something more. So that's how I personally identify myself. And in regards to the importance of identity, I believe if you don't have an identity, then you will never really be the true version of yourself. And without an identity, honestly, you can't be anything. So identity is very important in regards to connecting with your culture, your past, and anything you need.
Well, you say Black. I believe the problem is that we identify ourselves to Black. I think that we continue identifying to the ideology of a demographic of people who named us black, when in all actuality we are descendants of American slaves. So I truly believe that we need to work on identifying who we are and what our history is, so we can truly understand the identity of who we really are. We're not black. We are descendants of American slaves.
Well, once again, and knowing where we come from, we can aspire to be that again. Because to think that we was nothing and that we'd never ever be anything, we come from this and that, and we should be grateful for who we are, and that we're not under the control of slavery, and or oppression, that we should be, no, man, give me king, give me queen, if that's real. And we find out that it is real and that they look like me, that we're capable of that. That is something that's inside of us, man. That's the resiliency. But give me God, the creator. Don't give me a man. Give me the creator of mankind. Give me that. Let me know that I can get back to that felicity that Adam and Eve lost. They don't want to give us that. They want to give us, okay, you come. No, man. Let's keep it real. King?
It is very, very important. As I was talking about previously with how white people have ingrained in us to see us as inferior or to see ourselves as inferior, in order to really reach your highest potential, the first thing you need to do is get rid of that mindset that you are a king, you are a queen, and you are not in any way, shape, or form inferior. So for kings and queens, I feel like that's important, even as the greeting, hello king, something like that. And to know that no matter the stereotype, no matter our past, no matter our trauma, nothing like that, we are still beautiful humans who have, above all things, we are resilient. And after everything that our culture has been through, and the fact that we're still here today says a lot, and it truly shows the nature of how just majestic we are.
Again, the fact that the dominant European culture actually stole the game chess from Africa, which is in my book. I specifically talk about the terminology chess was actually created from Africans. And so the chess game that we've been led to seeing ourselves less than being kings and queens, we have been manipulated by the dominant European culture, that when they initially created this country, they said that this country was not meant for people of identifying themselves as descendants of slaves or Africans. So we must understand and become the kings and queens for ourselves, playing this game in the dominant European culture. We must learn how to become the king and the queen, and no longer allow those who manipulate the game to use us as pawns against one another.
I started a movement called My Life Matters, okay? And I did that with my children. I have a martial arts academy, and I teach children from 2 and up. Until we begin to realize that my life means something, when we wake up in the morning and take that breath, that's that breath of life that the Creator put into the man, not the male and the female. Male and female represents the gender of the human race. But then there was a man that he created eastward in the Garden of Eden. A man, not a male and a female. When we identify with that spirituality, because once he put that breath within him, man became a living being. The male and female only did the physicality. Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish. We have identified with the physical, the materialistic, and the monetary aspects of this world. And we run from the spirituality because they don't give us that. They say, oh, it's spooky, it's voodoo. They don't give us that self inside of us. They'll teach us about the evil in us. But what about the God in us? Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Where's that greatness that's in me? That righteousness that the Creator is placed in me. So, give me a God that didn't die. Give me a God that can't be questioned. Give me a God that identifies with his creation and will continue to give us that knowledge to get us back to where we belong. Instead of giving me man as a God. Because man teaches that he's God in the eyes of the people. That's where the problem comes from. That's where we fall short. Because man will never ever be the creator. And we will never, ever totally bow down and submit to this thing, this man, this world thing, because it's greater than that.
I would take that as anybody that God has created, which entails everybody on this earth matters. So no matter the race, no matter the past, no matter whatever identity you identify as, that you matter as a human being, and that no one is inferior or superior to everybody, that we are all in God's image created equal.
When I think about God's Lives Matter, I have to refer to my daughter about this, because the concept was spent from her. My daughter saw me say all lives matter, and she rejected me saying that because she thought that I was downplaying or discrediting Black Lives Matter. And I had to explain to her is that color is not the solving thing in our country that we need to be shooting for. If we're going to depend on in creating ourselves and making something better of ourselves, we need to depend on our Creator who created us. And so I believe that God's Lives Matter says exactly what it means. Every life created by God is infinite for everyone in value. Is written specifically for the dominant European culture initially, because I believe that we are in a condition based on things that they've done to us, and we have never as men actually been able to stand up and speak our truth. We're now being able to say. So I believe that when you finish that book, you'll now be able to look at our demographics of men and know that now we are saying to you, we're no longer your pet. We're no longer that color. We are as equal as you, and we want you to respect us as we want to be respected as equal as you. My initial, immediate, is to strike down color. I believe color, we need to pass new legislation. We no longer need to be looked at based on color. We need to be evaluated based on our character and who we are. I believe that with this book, we'll be able to create a new conversation moving forward where people will be able to, in the next generation, will no longer be evaluated based on the color of their skin, but they'll be evaluated based on the character of who they are. And so I believe that my book is that opportunity to create that conversation and that dialogue across the table. So passing new legislation that we strike down color and we learn how to put America first, okay, that's what I feel will make America greater than it's ever been or ever was.